For this quick answer, I want to have a few notes here because this is an extremely difficult issue, and I'm probably crazy to even try to do it in just a few minutes, but it's the theological concept of hell. So I'm going to go through this really quickly. You can learn much more if you go to my extended talks in the same website here. But what is hell? It's eternal separation from God. And why is there hell? What's the value of it? Well, it tells us something about the nature of God, doesn't it? God is so holy that any kind of sin cannot be in His presence. And it reveals the nature of human beings. It says that we are so sinful we cannot be there on our own. And the concept of hell actually is something very good when it comes to the idea of our need for justice and retribution and retaliation. We can turn that over to God. God will be the one to be in charge of that. So if you think Hitler got away with it, if you think Stalin got away with it, if you thought Mao got away with it, Pol Pot and some of these others, the answer is no, they didn't. They're paying for it now. What are some misconceptions about hell? One is that God created it for people. No, He didn't. It was created for Satan and his angels. Here's another misconception, that God sends us there against our wishes. That we desperately want to be with God, and He says no and slams the door in our face. As C.S. Lewis said, hell, we say to God, there are some people that say to God, your will be done, and others, God says to them, your will be done. In other words, people are not desperate, many people are not desperate to get into God's kingdom. I think about Christopher Hitchens, who passed away some time ago. He was just revulsed by the idea of God. He called him a North Korean dictator. So he would never have been satisfied to be in God's presence. A third misconception is that God tortures people there. No, that's not what it says in Scripture. That everybody gets the same treatment in hell. No. It says that it's better for certain towns in Jesus' time, comparing it to Sodom and Gomorrah, that there are worse sins and there are worse kinds of punishments. But what about objections? Let's do another area here. Objections to the doctrine of hell. It's unfair because we only live 70, 80 years and we only commit a certain temporal number of sins and then we're punished forever. That doesn't seem fair. But we sin throughout our lives. We have such a poor concept of the kinds of sins we do. If we just sinned 50 times, if we sinned for 50 years and we did 10 sins a day, oh, come on, we do a lot more than 10 a day. But if we did 10 sins a day for 50 years, you can do the math, it's nearly 200,000 sins. And that's just 10 a day. I knock that off within an hour. So you're talking about a lot more sin than we expect. Sin, some people think sin may even continue in hell, that people shake their fist at God and continue that rebellion even in hell. And what's the point of hell? Why is it continuous and why is it eternal? God is honoring our wish. In many cases, we do not want there to be a God. We do not want to bend our knee. We don't want to be there. And so that's an eternal problem that we're dealing with, and God says, I'll separate and you can go your way then. How about this? Here's another misconception, that people are sent there because they didn't believe in Jesus. That's not true. We are sent there because of our sin, not because of not believing in Jesus. Does that make sense? We have put ourselves in hell. How about this? It's unfair for people who've never heard about Jesus. But we have nature, we have our own conscience. Nature screams that there's a God. Our conscience talks about God. We have to suppress the truth, as it says in Romans. God reaches people in a lot of different ways. He's reaching a lot of Muslims through visions. If you're sincere and you want God, He's going to show up in some kind of form, a missionary or whatever. He wants people to be saved. We can trust Him. What about this misconception? God is just too loving to send people to hell. Well, what about, real quick case, you have a loved one who got assaulted and they've caught the person and it goes to court and you're in the courtroom and the judge says, the state of California is a loving state, we'll let him go. And you'd say, no, that deserves justice. He's a God of justice as well. So the greatest command is to love God. And if we reject His Son, we have decided, we've set ourselves on that road to hell. Is this a hard topic? Yes. Is there controversy about it? Yes. But at least this gives us something to think about in a quick way.